Hi everybody, and big welcome to a cEDH deck tech or an update video for Tymna and Dargo. As we all know, these free cards, Mana Crypt, Jewel Lotus and Dockside Extortionist, were kinda key inside Dargo Tymna. This being Pontus' favorite deck, if I'm correct, like?
Yep.
How has these bans changed Dargo? Is it dead, or are there? Can it be saved?
It's a complicated question. My first reaction was that it was dead, because like those three cards are like the real core of making Dargo castable. Like without them, Dargo becomes a lot harder to cast. And I would say, like before, I usually kind of mulligan for Dockside. Not like hard mulligan, but like Dockside was a huge plan of like tying the whole deck together. And now that's not an option. So we need to look over the deck in several ways. For one, we need to add more Dargo support. And we also need to, by doing that, we kind of lower the card quality of the deck. So we kind of need to add more turbo things, so to say. We also lost a lot of our pivot plans, sadly, because like a lot of our stacks matchup solves was just Technomancer Dockside loops. And now I don't think we have any way to win through Rule of Law. There might be some, but they're pretty niche at best.
So what changes have you kind of made? So if I understand correctly, these are the cards you have kind of taken out of the build?
Yeah, so to begin with, Pyroblast, Arena of Glory, Swords are the cards that doesn't necessarily need to go out. Arena of Glory has always been a testing slot for me, and currently I'm just testing Emergence Zone instead of Arena of Glory. So that's like 1-to-1, and also maybe it shouldn't be a support line at all. And Swords and Pyroblast should be in the deck. I just ran out of space and I need to test a lot of cards because the deck is like up in the air right now, so we have a lot of stuff to see where it lands. And Pyroblast is one of those cards that really good card, but it is cuttable. It doesn't really affect the deck, and like you know what it does. Swords, the same. Should be in the deck, but I'm testing a lot of things, so I'm making space. The rest of the cards are, like if you look at them, they're mainly slower pieces and or synergistic pieces. Like Delny is a real like just synergy engine. A lot of like she doubles almost all of your creatures, and some of those are mana, so they're really good. But it's a bit too slow, and the best things it did was Imp Recruiter for Dockside plus Magda, and just Dockside in general. Yeah. And since Dockside Magda isn't a thing anymore, and Dockside isn't a thing anymore, I think Delny is just too slow. She's still actually pretty strong, but she's really, really slow. It's really a lot harder to cast her because you don't have Crypt anymore. So casting these 3 mana cards is really hard.
Did you lost your belief in Chthonian Nightmare completely when Dockside was banned? Because Chthonian Nightmare Dockside great, but now no Dockside. Is there nothing else Chthonian Nightmare does?
So technically Chthonian Nightmares actually combos with Technomancer as well, but you need to have another 1-drop creature, which you aren't guaranteed to have. Actually, I did add a couple, so like I think we're on 4 or 5 1-drop creatures, so could technically work still. But no, I think like when you had Dockside, it actually tied a lot of stuff together. Now it's just pretty awkward, and I don't really believe it's worth including anymore, sadly.
You also cut Relic of Legends. Why?
Relic of Legends is still probably fine, but it is pretty slow. And also, like, kind of the same argument with Delny. It's a 3-drop, so casting it early is a lot harder. Also, like, casting other legends early to tap them to Relic of Legends is still pretty hard. It's always been like on the lower part of should be played. Like, it shouldn't really be played, but it can be played, and it's pretty good, but it's not great. And I think the biggest hit to Relic of Legends is the fact that Tymna got a lot harder to cast, funnily enough. Before, Tymna was pretty castable. Now we lost a lot of our early lines to cast Tymna without losing tempo. Now we actually need to dedicate a turn to cast Tymna, which is a lot less valuable. She's still a good card, and she's still a good, like, plan C. Like, before these bans, we usually could, or not usually, but every now and then we just cast her turn 2 to have a turn 3 protected win with an extra card. And I don't think that's really an option anymore, which makes Relic of Legends worse as well.
I mean, you're cutting Delny, that's a legendary creature. You're cutting Oswald, that's a legendary creature. It's harder to cast Dargo, so I can see that the legendary count might be smaller than before. So yeah, I can see the appeal of letting it go. Why cut Oswald though?
Oswald has always been a card that's also just like Relic of Legends. It's a bit too awkward, and like most of these changes aren't They aren't just because of the bans. Like, the ban didn't really hit Oswald that much. It's more that in retooling the deck, I need to cut a lot of the more fluffier pieces, a lot more of the like layering. A lot of the layering and like synergistic cards kind of need to disappear for more just mana and win cons, basically, mana and payoffs.
So if we actually take a look at what those are, if we scroll down, here are the cards you have added. Dihada, Skirk Prospector, Prized Statue, Chromatic Star, Grinding Station, Emergency Zone, Grim Tutor, Yawgmoth's Will, whatever this is, Obnixilis, I think you've played that one before, Jeska's Will, Impulsive Pilfer, and Grim Monolith.
Yeah, the funny part is like almost all of these cards has been in the deck before. Like none of them are new to the strategy or the deck. Dihada, I've never been on Dihada, but a lot of people in the community has tried Dihada. I'm still not sure on Dihada in the lists. I kind of like her. She casts Dargo. Like in that she costs 4 to make 4. Mills you or draws legendaries. There's actually pretty high density of legendaries in this deck. That's good to draw. So it's not completely dead. But 3 to 4 treasures cast Dargo every time. It's like Dargo plus Tymna plus some mill, which is value. But the bigger reason I'm actually running her is I'm still running Magda. I'm not sure if that's the right call, because she did lose a lot of like layering and synergy and like game plans by losing Dockside. But the turn 1 or turn 2 Magda it's not likely, but it's not unlikely to have like cast Magda, next turn, go to combat, get the treasure, cast the Hada, activate Magda for Citadel.
This is the kind of build you're playing, so you're finding Bolas Citadel still with Magda, right? Is that the kind of goal?
Yeah. And Citadel is kind of the best payoff for the deck now. Adnos is still good. Before it was like Adnos was the best thing you can do, and Citadel was like really good, but not as good. I think Citadel is better than Nos now. I'm not entirely sure if I think that or not, but I think so. So like the Hada is kind of to enable Magda more. Maybe we cut Magda, but Magda still layers really well with Technomancer. But also Technomancer might go because, like as you understand, a lot of the layering is like up in the air right now. A lot of the cards are like medium on their own, and they worked really well when everything layered together. And now the layering has kind of fallen through. So I'm trying to like keep some of it still in there. But basically we focus more on the rituals and Breach now, as well as like still trying to cheat off Nos and Citadel, of course.
And this thing, what is this thing? It's a legendary artifact creature. Yeah, sure, I get that for 3 mana, but tap it, sacrifice another creature, add an amount of black mana equal to the sacrificed creature's mana value. Sure.
Yeah, it might be cope. I'm not sure. So when I added it, my thinking was it's one of those cards that I'm just trying. By the way, I've never drawn it in gold fishing right now, so I don't actually have a feel for it. But my thinking added it was that if we lose one turn in like speed on general, like if you go from on average winning turn 2 to on average winning turn 3, maybe we can play this turn 2 and win even harder turn 3. That's my thinking. Maybe it doesn't pan out, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know. It's also pretty cool because we still run multi-duplication. So we can like go Illuminor, sack Dargo, recast Dargo, multi-duplication Seras, sack Dargo, make 14 mana for 5 mana. That's like only a post-Nos line, but it's there, I guess. I'll have to see how it feels to play with it. I haven't played with it yet that much, or I haven't drawn it in playtesting. So we'll see how it turns out. It might be cope, it might go out. It's more interesting now than before.
Another card I'm kind of skeptic about here is Skirk Prospector. So we don't play the Goblin anymore because it's banned, Dockside. And you usually sacrifice Dockside so you could reanimate Dockside, and Skirk Prospector was kind of helping out here. Why did you add this thing? What Goblin are you sacrificing?
It's really funny how a lot of people were running Skirk Prospector before to loop Dockside mainly. And when Dockside gets banned, I fold and add it to the deck. It's weird, and I'm not sure, but it's mainly in the line of like I'm trying to make Dargo more castable. This is 1 mana, make 3 Dargo mana on its floor. It's also like pretty often it's like a post-Nos ritual, and I think we have 5 or 6 goblins in the deck. So there actually are a bunch of goblins. So like if you have like Sticker Goblin, if you have like a used Goblin Welder, you can just play Skirk, sack the spent Goblin, sack Skirk, and you went mana positive. There's also another card it's kind of the same card as Skirk in some ways, also Pilfer, but it is a Goblin, and when you sack it, you make a mana. And you need to sack Pilfer to something else, unlike Skirk Prospector, and you make a treasure when it dies. Skirk and Impulsive Pilfer is actually a+B ritual. Even the Encore is like a ritual, because like if you Encore it, you make 3 copies of Pilfer, you sack those 3 to Skirk, you make 3 treasures and 3 red, so 4 mana, make 6 mana. It's kinda cope. We actually had this discussion in the Tymna Dargo Discord. It's like the exact middle of cope and cooking, and we called it king coping.
You guys. So how does your deck list look kind of right now? So this is the deck, more or less. If you actually zoom out a bit, we can see more cards here in a bigger scale. So you have 17 creatures, you have 15 sorceries, 16 instants, 25 artifacts, 3 enchantments, and 20 free lands. Typical Pontus, staying true. So how does the deck kind of feels right now? Has the power level decreased? We've actually played a game with it already. So what's your take on its power level? We also made a review, you and I, like what commanders got better and what commanders got worse. What's your take now? Has it gotten worse?
It's definitely gotten worse. I think it's lost more than the average deck loses from losing these cards. But I'm in goldfishing after this retooling. I've been surprised on how often I can still present a turn 2 win. The deck still works. It's just a bit more awkward at times. So like the biggest loss is that you lose a lot by not being able to just mulligan for Dockside on like your 4 and 5 hands. So the mulligans gets a bit less consistent, but overall it's actually been better than expected. I expected it to feel way worse from the bans than it actually have felt. There is, however, an argument about, and this is a discussion we had in the ban list discussion as well, about like if you're about to play Turbo, is there a reason to play this over Rogsai if you're just playing the best Turbo lists? Before
I have a few. Can I just say and interrupt you? I would say yes. Some things that you have here that is an advantage to Rogsai is that 1, Dargo punches pretty good. So if you're going up in a matchup where suddenly you need to kill players because players have stacks pieces, Dargo kind of helps you out. Second, Tymna is actually a really good card draw commander compared to like Celias and Rogsai. Like you have at least card draw in the command zone. Now definitely not the best one, and Rogsai and such has Mystic Room and Heuristic Study, but there's still something of like a different backup plan. And you have silence effects. Grand Abolish and Range Captain of Eos are good. So me not even playing this deck, I would say that there are still some upsides with this commander compared to Rogsai. What's your take? You're the person who's actually playing both of these commanders, more or less. Am I correct or wrong?
Well, to be fair, I don't really play a lot of Rogsai, but all of my friends play Rogsai and tournament with me with it. So I do know the inside scoop on Rogsai.
Yeah,
I've read the primer, should I say. As we didn't lose as much as I think, I still think there is a reason to run it. Like the reasons you mentioned, those have always been the reasons to run this over any Grixis pile, basically. Another reason, there's 2 more reasons, one real and one fake. The other real reason is that you still attack on kind of a different angle, but that angle did get less different from losing Dockside. Like we have way less non-spell wins than we did before. Before we had a lot of like just creature spells or like really hard to interact with lines to win. Those got easier to interact with now. Some of them still exist, like Bergi, Altar of Dementia still exists. So like we still have some hard to interact with lines. Technomancer kind of exists, like Technomancer Magna still exists. But like all of our Rule of Law wins is gone. The second reason to play this over Rogsai, that's not real, but it does exist, is that this deck is harder to know when you should interact. A lot of times the people just interact completely wrong. I've had people, should I help them? Should I not help them? Should I tell people how they do it wrong? Or do I want to win more games?
You should win more games.
Yeah, I agree. People interact wrongly with this
How
deck
about
a
this?
lot.
If you want to know the secret, you have to join the Patreon page. No, I'm just kidding. No, learn the secret special deck tech advice by joining the Patreon. Nah, but here's the thing. Mardu is a puzzle. I think it's really hard to actually have a tutorial right now how to interact properly with Mardu in general, because Mardu is always puzzling things together in strange ways. So I can see it.
That's also the reason I've always loved this deck. Like Rogsai and like Grixis Piles is a puzzle as well, but the puzzle piece, it's like comparing Lego and not Roblox. It's like, what's the big Lego?
Duplo.
The Duplo. Yeah, exactly. It's like Lego and Duplo. Sure, it's like you can still build things with them, but like I'd rather build more intricate things with Lego than by build Duplo.
Cool. No, Duplo is that's awesome.
But I'm not judging those things. I'm just using it as an analogy once.
This is becoming a big debate now. We're gonna defend Duplo forever. No, I'm just kidding. I have a question for you, actually. One thing I just realized right now, I didn't think about this before, but Wishclaw Talisman have gotten a lot weaker, I just realized.
Yeah, for sure.
Is this a card we should actually consider cutting? Have you thought about it?
I have thought about it, and my thinking is basically if we ever consider running Green Tutor, Wishclaw is just better. Like
Yes.
you split the mana, and like setting up a Wishclaw and then in the next turn having 1 mana tutor is a lot more flexible than 3 mana tutors. So I still think it's the best. It's the best worst tutor if we put 3 mana tutors in the worst category.
Yeah.
There are worse, of course, but like playable worst.
I kind of like it the part where on the turn you're actually trying to win, you're only playing 1 mana for it potentially. So
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's really good. Also, in decks that run Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of cute because you can weld it away before it goes away.
Yeah.
So you activate it in response to activating it. You just weld it, get back, you like Looks Battle or whatever from your graveyard, and then next turn you can weld it back if you want to tutor again next turn.
I was
So
gonna
it's even
mention
better in
that
those lists.
Oswald and Wishclaw is also really good, but you cut Oswald.
Oswald actually doesn't work because it's sorcery speed.
No, but you can use Oswald to find Wishclaw Talisman.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if you're finding a 2-drop with Oswald, it's 99% of the time defense grid or or Alt of Dementia, because those actually win the game instead of tutoring for something else.
True. Hope you enjoyed this little short update for Tymna Dargo with Pontus. We'll see if he keeps winning with it in the gameplays, or if he turns and converts to the corrupted Rogsai. In any case, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time!